Hello and welcome to this segment on mindfulness. So before I dig too deep in, I just have a quick question to get things started. When you think of or hear the term mindfulness, what is one of the first things that comes to mind? How do you envision the application of mindfulness looking? The reason for my question is because for most of us, as we think of or hear the term mindfulness, we think that mindfulness is meditation, and mindfulness is not meditation, okay? Meditation is one of the forms of mindful practice that allows us to reach that more mindful state and that mindful way of living. But mindfulness is not meditation. What mindfulness is a mental state that is achieved through directing attention and focusing one's awareness on the present moment. And this is done while calmly acknowledging and accepting thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations without judgment. That without judgment piece is so crucial because as we apply judgment to thoughts, emotional feelings, or bodily sensations, this is what compels us to cognitively fuse with unproductive and unhealthy lines of thinking. Okay, so we want to take out that judgment, and mindfulness helps us to do that. Mindfulness is also a basic human ability that we all possess. This basic human ability that we possess allows us to be fully present in the moment. It allows for full engagement, which is where we find our optimal zone of functioning or our optimal zone of natural excellence, okay? And this is done as we experience high levels of activation, anxiety, stress, and pressure. As we experience these things here, we tend to underutilize this skill and we negate learning how to access it. So as we learn how to access it through mindfulness and access this attention and focus, we better and more consistently stay within that optimal zone. Lastly, mindfulness is the basis from which I'll be discussing, or basis for a lot of the other mental skills that I'll be discussing throughout this module. Okay? And if I'm to sum it all up, mindfulness is a way of living. So keep that in mind, okay? So why is mindful living and mindful practice so important? Well, it has to do with the structure of our brain. Mindfulness allows for a more balanced activation of two really important parts of our brain. And that is our prefrontal cortex, our PFC, where executive functioning happens, decision-making, planning, and self-awareness. So here's where we start to activate these self-awareness centers of our brain so that we are more aware of what's happening internally in relation to the external environment around us. The other part of our brain that it relates to is the more of a deactivation or decrease in activation of our limbic system, okay? And this is where we process fearful and threatening stimuli, as well as where emotional reactivity comes from, okay? And so what we want to do is learn how to activate the more productive parts of our brain that compel action, learning, focus, self-regulation through that self-awareness, and overall psychological flexibility, which then allows for performance flexibility. Okay, what mindfulness does is that it tunes us into what's important and what's relevant and most productive in order to compel more consistent and better individual performance. Okay, so practicing mindfulness allows for that, or enhances that better mental functioning, that better mental performance, and that activation of the PFC. And this is correlated with enhanced well-being, enhanced functioning, and a reduction of anxiety. So here's the core of resilience, folks. It's happening right here as we apply mindfulness and get better at activating those productive parts of our brain, okay? So how do we train mindfulness? Well, one of the first ways of training mindfulness is through mindful movement. And one of the most common mindful movement activities is mindful walking. And so let me take you through what mindful walking looks like real quick, okay? So that this is something that you can implement and incorporate into your daily living and engage upon right after this segment here. So in mindful walking, what you're going to do is you're going to go outside for a walk and you're going to engage all of your senses. You're going to focus your mind on the walk in the present, not the past and not the future. You're going to feel your body moving, you're going to feel the air, and you're going to notice your breathing. Your breathing is a really important focal point to return back to when we start to notice ourselves slipping away in thought. You're going to see the world around you, but you're not going to judge it. You're just going to let it be. No judgment on what you see. When your mind wanders off, as you start to now tune into your thinking patterns, you're going to bring it back to the present moment. And a really effective way to do that is bring it back to your breathing, bring it back to your breath, okay? As you're doing this, you're going to accept your thoughts and not judge them. You're going to accept what you see in the world around you, and you're not going to judge it. And you're going to repeat this cycle throughout the duration of time that you are engaging in mindful walking. The goal is to incorporate mindful walking into your daily life more often and have the goal of furthering your distance over time as you get better. Okay? You want to start small, make it manageable, and focus on the wins and the effectiveness. What you can do as you notice yourself getting better is increase from there. Okay? So that's what mindful walking looks like. Another way of training mindfulness is through short pauses. Okay? And these short pauses are basically breaking the cycle of unproductive and unhealthy thinking that we typically engage in throughout our day without even realizing it, okay? And one of the ways to do this is by asking yourself this question repeatedly throughout the day: what's important now? The simple act of stopping and asking ourselves this question causes us to briefly pause while our mind imagines the impact of our present moment choices, behaviors, actions, and events, okay, that are going on around us. What this does is it tunes us into what's going on right now and the things that are going on right now that can impact our future. This powerful question essentially allows us to prioritize these behaviors, these actions, these events, these thoughts in both our personal and professional lives. Winning, right, asking ourselves throughout the day what's important now, is about a future focus. However, we can't focus and think about the future without first starting with the present, okay? And so what's important now brings us back to the present in relation to what can happen in the future. Some other ways of practicing mindfulness or training mindfulness, is thought acceptance, body scan, relaxation techniques, and breathing exercises. These are tools I'm going to talk about throughout the rest of the remainder of the module, but these are other ways to train mindfulness. This is that base I'm talking about. So, that being said, let's start with mindful movement and short pauses. Where can you incorporate these activities into your daily life? Let's dig in.